The fourth P in the marketing mix is promotion. In this video, we're going to talk about promotion. Promotion can take several different forms. It can involve advertising, but not necessarily. It may also involve sales promotions, or public relations, or indeed personal selling. We're going to look at each of these sections individually. So promotion is used to increase consumer awareness of the brand and the goods and services that it sells. It uses techniques to persuade consumers to buy the firm's products over those of their competitors. Advertising is something which is omnipresent in our lives. We're all so familiar with advertising. In fact, sometimes we take it for granted how often we are being advertised to. Advertising communicates information about a firm's goods and services to its consumers. It aims to remind, to inform, and to persuade people about a brand and about its products. So different types of advertising, and you guys can think of your own different examples of this, but sometimes advertisements can be informative. So that's where they just give information about a product and they can show or explain and give a factual demonstration of how a product can work. That might be a car advertisement, it might be a gardening product, it could be a cleaning product, and it'll just give you the information which will inspire you then to say, that's exactly what I need, that information. Reminder advertisements. Well, reminder advertisements are for an established brand that everybody knows, but sometimes people can forget and say, oh, I forgot that even existed. So a reminder advertisement may be about an existing brand and they just want to revitalize their brand. Maybe they're in that declining stage of their product life cycle and they want to extend it. It might be about an upcoming sale. So a company like Harvey Norman have a regular advertisement about a sale that's coming up, and therefore that's a reminder of that brand, you know. Um, Persuasive advertisement. Now, persuasive advertisement seeks to kind of convince um, the viewer or the listener or the reader that they really need this product and that it will make them a better person or will make them um, have a better life, whatever it might be. Okay, so persuasive advertisement is regularly used with relation to cosmetics and aftershave and perfume and clothing, perhaps, examples like that. Generic advertisement is when, as a whole industry, a specific industry, might advertise rather than individual companies within that industry. So I'm thinking here of something like Bord Fáilte, who will advertise Ireland as a tourist destination, not particularly any particular hotel or any particular tourist attraction within Ireland, but it's just promoting Ireland as a tourist destination. Irish milk, the National Dairy Council advertise Irish milk, not any particular one brand or one farm, but just the general concept of Irish dairy products. So that's generic advertisement. And then finally, we might have comparative advertising, and comparative advertising is where you have one company advertising directly in comparison to another and saying, we are better than these because. And that is more prevalent now than it used to be. It used to be kind of illegal to mention other companies' names in your advertisement, but they lifted that, and since then you'll have large advertisements in newspapers where Aldi will list their prices and beside it they'll put Tesco or Dunnes Stores for comparative purposes. In fact, Aldi run an advertisement on TV about how much a family saves when they switch from another supermarket to theirs. Ryanair constantly do it where they reference Aer Lingus' prices and they say how much better our prices are. So comparative advertisements are quite commonplace nowadays. Now, which medium to pick for your advertisement? Well, television is a well-known advertising media, and it has some advantages. It can reach a very wide market, and you can show really detailed information because obviously you have sound and you have pictures, and it's a really good way of advertising. However, there are disadvantages also. It's very expensive. Traditional or mainstream television is not as popular as it once was. Now people are streaming and they're using Netflix, and also a lot of people tend to flick over when the advertisements come on. So uh, your hard spent money on advertising is wasted because somebody can just flick with their remote control or fast forward through the advertisement. Um, Radio is very commonly used. It's very good for um, a captive audience. If somebody's driving a car, drive time radio, and it's very good for local uh, shops. So therefore, a lot of local businesses will advertise on local radio, for example, Northern Sound. Um, it is cheaper than advertising on TV. However, um, it's easy to forget that there definitely is a lack of visual. So some things just don't work on radio. You never really hear of clothes or um, been advertised on radio because you need to see those. Newspapers are relatively cheap to advertise, and they can reach a very good local market again, like the Anglo Celt in Cavan. If you have a furniture shop in Cavan and you want to advertise, the Anglo Celt is ideal. You can put in pictures of your products, big sale sign. You can tell people what day the sale is starting, all that kind of stuff. However, they have a very short shelf life. People tend to throw them in the bin after a day or two, and of course, not as many people read newspapers as used to. So therefore, it's a declining media, really. Um, Social media is a very powerful way of advertising, more so than it ever was. It's possible to reach a very large target market, and also it's possible to zone in particularly on your target market, people who are interested in your products, because if they've clicked like on something similar, well, then you can focus your advertising strategy on those people. You can interact directly with consumers, so they can ask you a question and you can respond, which is fantastic and not available in the other media. Um, However, sometimes people can put up negative comments. Sometimes, not everybody is available on social media. Some people are not users, so there is a limited amount of scope as well on it. It's quite cheap as well and affordable. So social media is a really popular method now of advertising. And then to have an actual business website, which again is not that expensive, and you can control all the information and you can put up fantastic examples of your products. I'd advise you guys to maybe have a look at Keoghs.ie, Keoghs, .ie, which are a Dublin company who are making um, crisps, and they have a fantastic website with lovely a whole range of features about marketing on their website. It's well worth having a look to see. Um, However, of course, a website needs to be maintained and upgraded, and you need to have either in-house expertise on that, or else you need to pay somebody to do that. It does cost money. Now, when you're choosing an advertising medium, well, you have to consider the cost. Might be far too expensive to advertise on TV, much more affordable on radio or on newspaper. You have to consider the type of service or product. If you're selling clothing, you'd probably say radio is no good to me. If you're selling, something which is nationwide, then a local newspaper is not going to be relevant. Okay. Your target market, you need to say where are the people who are willing and likely to buy our product. That's where social media has a big advantage. When you put a niche product, let's say for example, a niche product is something to do with crafting, and you put it on national television, 95% of people will ignore that ad or will just flick away. Whereas if you find um, a crafting group on Facebook or on Instagram, uh, on a social media channel, well, then all of a sudden 95% of the people you're advertising to are already interested in your product. So therefore you can reach your target market much more efficiently. And then whatever stage of the product life cycle you might be at, you might need intensive advertising at the start to get brand awareness and to get your name out there. Um, you might also want to kickstart or rejuvenate a product if it is beginning to go into decline. The second thing you can do is sales promotion. Now, sales promotions are generally what we call short-term gimmicks used by businesses to attract consumers to buy products and services. Those may well be um, things such as maybe loyalty cards, where people will collect points. Tesco, Dunn stores do this. It's a good example of a sales promotion technique. Special offers where buy one, get one free, half price offers, that kind of thing. Free samples, giving out free samples of a product in order to entice people. Discount codes is another example from your book where you give you give a code out in a competition, or you give a discount code to somebody and that entices them to go and get 5% off. Um, and merchandising is also a good example of sales promotion where people do up lovely displays in supermarkets or and they make their products visually pleasing to consumers, and that gives a kind of a boost to sales of that particular product um, in a particular shop. Public relations. So, a marketing technique used to create a positive public image for a business and the products and services that it sells. So examples of public relations might be positive press releases, where a business will create a press release and they will give it to a marketing company or a public PR company, and that PR company will then supply it to different newspapers. And you'll be reading an article in a newspaper about a company, and it won't seem like an advertisement, but it actually really is an advertisement. It's just public relations instead. Kyo's crisps are a good example of that, where they have their story that they have developed about originally a farm used to just grow potatoes, have diversified into creating potato crisps. Um, that family have been on the Late Late Show, and they've been on other talk shows, and they've been on radio programs, and like an interview, but it's actually public relations. It's an advertisement, and they have managed to develop that side of their business. Um, Sponsorship is another good example where a business will sponsor a particular company might sponsor a local rugby team or a football team, or they might sponsor a national football team, depending on the profile. Kingspan is a good example, sponsor of Cavan football team. Endorsements, celebrity endorsements, where a celebrity will claim to, or perhaps might actually use a product, and they will then try to convince everybody else that this is a product they should use. Rory McIlroy is a good example of that with Nike and their golf clubs. Um, and of course, that kind of heads in towards influencers as well, and how influencers will use a product and then go on their YouTube channel or whatever it might be and tell everybody else how fantastic it is. That's an endorsement of a certain type, celebrity endorsement as well. And then charities. Businesses giving to charity is not also always um, purely out of altruism. They also like to promote that and tell people how charitable they are so that businesses will then reap the benefits of that. If it was purely out of the goodness of their heart, you would never have heard about it. Instead, they do give to charity, but they also tell everybody about that so that it reflects well on their brand and it improves their public relations or their PR. Personal selling, the oldest form really of promotion where people face to face, sales staff meet consumers face to face, provide information on a product and persuade them to purchase the product.